All right, let's be real. If you've been in crypto for the last few years, it's been a ride, right? An insane, exhilarating, terrifying, and for a lot of us, a very, very expensive ride. Today, we're going to talk about how to get off that roller coaster and start navigating with a map.
So let me guess. Does this sound familiar? It's 2021, the headlines are screaming, your buddies are all talking about it, and you finally jumped in. Right around November, when Bitcoin was touching almost 70 grand. And then, well, we all know what happened next, don't we?
And hey, look, if that was you, you are not alone. Not by a long shot. It's practically a rite of passage. But here's the thing. It wasn't your fault. You weren't playing in some chaotic, random casino. There's a pattern, a rhythm that's been playing out for over a decade. You were just missing the map. Well, until today.
So in this explainer, we're going to hand you that map. First, we'll look at the big picture, something called the millionaire clock. Then we'll break it down into the 4 market seasons, get into the halving engine that powers this whole thing, talk about your brain on crypto, which is a big one, and finally lay out a simple 4-year game plan. Okay, let's get right into it. The single most important idea you need to get is that the entire crypto market, with Bitcoin leading the charge, moves in this surprisingly predictable 4-year cycle. I'm not talking about some wild theory here. This is a historical pattern, a pattern that people who get it have used to make a lot of money. And the proof is right there in the history. Just look at this timeline. Back in 2012, we have this thing called a halving. We'll get to that. And boom, a new all-time high follows. Fast forward to 2016, same story. And in 2020, you guessed it, happened again. That's 3 for 3, which of course brings us to 2024. The halving just happened. So the big question on everyone's mind is history about to repeat itself? The best way to really wrap your head around this cycle isn't as some squiggly line on a chart. Think of it like a year with 4 totally distinct seasons. And just like real seasons, each one has its own vibe, its own mood, and it demands its own strategy. First up is winter. This is what we call the accumulation phase. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It comes right after a huge crash, it's cold, it's quiet, and honestly, it's super boring. It feels like absolutely nothing is going on. You look at the news and it's just awful. Every headline is screaming the same thing. Crypto is dead. Everyone who bought the top is gone, they've given up, and the world has decided the whole experiment is over. For good this time. So here's the kicker. While every single person is convinced it's dead, the smart money, the big institutions, they're quietly buying. Prices are just chopping sideways, trading volume is basically zero, and nobody in your group chat is talking about it. This right here, when it feels the absolute worst, this is the moment of maximum financial opportunity. And then things start to change. We get spring, the markup phase. You can feel the ice start to thaw. The price begins this slow, steady climb. It's not crazy yet, but things are starting to look, well, hopeful. And the mood shifts with it. People who got totally wrecked before are starting to peek out, kind of wondering, hey, maybe crypto's back. But they're still super cautious, still hesitant. And then comes summer, the distribution phase. This is the phase you remember from 2021. This is the absolute mania. Prices go vertical, parabolic. It feels like you literally can't lose money. Suddenly, everyone's an investing genius. Your cab driver is telling you which altcoin to buy. Celebrities are pushing NFTs. And the number one thing you hear everywhere is, this time is different. This, right here, is the phase of maximum financial risk. And what always follows summer? Yeah, fall, the markdown phase. The party abruptly ends and the brutal, painful crash begins. We're talking a 70, 80, even 90% drop that just wipes out everyone who FOMO'd in at the top. This was 2022. And just like that, the feeling flips on a dime. Euphoria turns into despair, into anger, into feeling betrayed. The headlines are all about fraud, collapses, and everyone who called themselves a genius a month ago is now saying the whole thing was a scam from the start. And then what happens? The cycle resets. Winter begins all over again. So you gotta be asking, why does this happen? Why this specific 4-year rhythm? Well, it's not random. It's not magic. It's literally baked into Bitcoin's code. So let's look at the engine that drives this whole machine, the Bitcoin halving. So here's the deal. Roughly every 4 years, the amount of new Bitcoin being created gets cut in half, slashed, permanently. This shows it perfectly. Before the 2024 halving, about 900 new Bitcoin were hitting the market every day. After, that number dropped to just 450. It's a pre-programmed, predictable supply shock. And what happens in any market when you suddenly cut the supply of something in half while demand is either staying the same or even going up? The price has to react. And historically, that reaction has been, well, explosive. After the 2012 halving, we saw an 8,000% gain. After 2016, 2,800%. After 2020, 700%. Yeah, the returns are getting smaller, but they are still absolutely massive.
Okay, so we've got the map. We know what powers the engine. But now we have to talk about the single biggest thing that's going to get in your way. You. Or, your brain. This market cycle is almost perfectly designed to make you feel the exact wrong thing at the exact wrong time.
Just look at this table and be brutally honest with yourself. Does this sound familiar? During the accumulation phase, when prices are at their lowest, you're disgusted. You're thinking, I'll never touch crypto again. Then, during the markup, you're waiting for a dip that never really comes. At the absolute peak, during distribution, you feel like a genius. And then, during the markdown, all you can think is, I should have sold. Your feelings are always one step behind the market. If you follow them, you are guaranteed to buy high and sell low, every single time.
So, if we can't trust our feelings, what do we trust? We trust the map. We trust the cycle. So let's put it all together into a dead simple, actionable game plan that takes your emotions completely out of the picture. All right, here's one strategy that has worked like a charm historically. Step 1. You buy, but not during the mania. You start buying in the months after a halving as we're entering that spring phase. Step 2. You just hold. You hold for about the next 18 months, right through the summer craziness. Step 3. You start to sell. Gradually, when everyone else is shouting, this time is different. And then step 4, you wait. You sit on your hands through the crash of fall and the boredom of winter. And you repeat. You stop checking the price every hour and start thinking in 4-year chunks. Okay, but that's all based on history. The million-dollar question is, where are we right now? For that, we can look at some cool data that comes directly from the blockchain. One of the best tools is called the MVRV ratio. Now, without getting too technical, it basically tells us if the market is overvalued or undervalued. Historically, a number below 1 has screamed market bottom, and a number over 3.5 has signaled market top. And right now, that number is sitting at about 2.1.
So what's that 2.1 telling us? Well, in our little seasonal analogy, it suggests we're definitely not in the dead of winter anymore, but we're also not in that scorching late summer heat wave. It kind of puts us somewhere in the middle of the whole cycle. We're probably past the point of maximum opportunity, but also, and this is key, likely before the point of maximum risk.
And that brings us right to the final and most important question. It's one thing to have the map, to see it, to understand the seasons, to get the psychology, but it's a completely different ballgame to actually have the discipline to follow it when every fiber of your being is screaming at you to do the exact opposite. The cycle will almost certainly play out again. The real question is, will you?